Hi everyone, welcome back to Axis and Allies Pacific round number 4 here that we're playing here in April 2020. We're into round 4 now, started Japanese turn on the timeline of the war. We're into about late February, March 1944. Here in this edition, the Japanese here are going to have to concentrate back down here in Java to retake the island so they can get back up to 40 IPCs to collect 4 more victory points for their turn. This is going to be the only combat that they're going to do here in their turns, so we'll go over the end results here. Japan ends their turn in round number 4 with taking over Java, putting them back up to 40 IPCs to allow them to collect 4 more victory points. They move some troops into French Indochina and concentrate here outside of Hong Kong as we prepare with battle with Indian and Chinese troops. They moved their submarines into the Mariana Islands and purchased 5 more submarines there to draw attention to the U.S. fleet here. And for their victory points, they are now up to 15 victory points. So let's see if they can get up to 22 somehow as we continue on in round number 4 here. We move into India's turn here in round number 4. They take a transport with 2 infantry down here to Malaya and they occupy that again, reducing Japan down 4 IPCs. And they also do a battle here in French Indochina and occupy that, reducing Japan down 3 more IPCs. And then we're going to end around here with a big naval battle here off of Java here between the British Australian forces against the Japanese Navy down here. So we'll show you how this works out. The British Navy does come out victorious in the battle for the Java Sea here. As we see, casualties are heavy on both sides. Japan, they lose their 3 big battleships plus an aircraft carrier and all their transports and 2 fighters. And there we see the British losses in the battle there. So the British battleship, the Warspite, lives on in the game. And we now move on to the end of the British turn here. Covering the U.S. turn here in round number 4, they're going to move their naval units from the Marshall Islands. Transport and 2 infantry are going to occupy the Caroline Islands. The carriers and the rest of the force is going to move down here and go into New Guinea. There's a borderline there, so they don't have enough range to get into Dutch New Guinea there. That'll maybe be the next round, but they are now in range in round number 5 to occupy the Philippine Islands if possible. They send some bombers from the Solomon Islands over here, and they take out the 2 transports here in the Celebes Seas, and the bombers have a range of 6 movements, so they'll be able to land in Australia here. And they move a bomber from China down to Malaya here, and the Chinese units here move into French Indochina to support the British troops there. So that's what we're looking at here at the end of US's turn, and we'll show you here what units the US purchases to end their turn here. So at the end of round number 4, Axis and Allies Pacific, this puts us at about May 27th, 1944, with the US invading New Guinea and taking over there. We see here they purchase another battleship. We'll call that the Wisconsin there on the Hawaiian Islands. And they purchase 3 more submarines there on the west coast, plus a destroyer here. And they also purchase another bomber here over in Chinese territory. So here we see the IPC chart at the end of round number 4. Japan is down to 33. They'll probably still collect 3 more IPCs on their turn. So you see it's still quite possible for them to get up to 22 victory points to declare a victory in this game. We'll see how this turns out as we move into round number 5. And there we see the total game board view for the end of round number 4. So we start round number 5 with Japan. They're up to 15 victory points. They only need 7 more victory points to declare a victory in this game. To do that, they're gonna have to go on the defensive here around Indonesia and the Philippines. So their attacks here, attack A is going to be a submarine attack. There's submarines from the Mariana Islands. 3 is going to attack this U.S. sub on the Marshall. 2 will attack that transport. And attack B is gonna come here from the units here that were in Kwansagzi. I don't know, I probably didn't pronounce that good, but the Chinese territory there. The 2 bombers have range to go down here and attack those 2 transports. These 3 fighters are going to concentrate on the British battleship here to seek some revenge, and the last fighter here is going to take out this transport. The object here is to prevent the British from using transports and the Americans to reduce their transports to limit their ability to take over land territories and further reducing Japan's IPCs. So I'll show you how these battles result here. So down here, Japan does take out the 2 transports, but in the battle, the transports with a 1 or less in the rounds, they're able to take the 2 bombers out. Here, the British battleship Warspite does get sunk by the fighters. Japanese lose 1 fighter in the battle. Up here, the fighter there takes out the English transport, lands in Sumatra. On to non-combat, they move troops from Asia into the Philippines and down here on Sumatra. And then they move some troops from the mainland of Japan into Shantung. They only have 1 infantry defending Hong Kong. And then they purchase 3 transports, and we got about 6 infantry there. So they're going to use that to beef up the Philippines and the Indonesia as much as they can here. So at the end of the round here, at the end of round 5, they're up to 18 victory points. So they're doing what they need to do for the Japan player here. If anyone wants to see a good example how to play Japan, how to hold in there and get the victory points. Obviously, you're not going to win the war, but you can do what you need to do to get the 22 victory points. So we'll now move on to the British turn for round number 5. On to the British turn. They're a little bit of a bind with losing so many transports. They have a transport left over here in Australia that they can load up and attack Dutch New Guinea to take a point there. And up here in Hong Kong from French Indochina, they have a tank that can move 2 movements over there to try and take out the infantry and take 2 more points away from Japan. So that's about all the attack movements they can do here, and we'll go over that. They also took over Siam and took 2 points up there and 2 points away from Japan. So we'll go over these 2 attacks here. So Japan is able to get better rolls and hold off this attack here in Dutch New Guinea to keep that. As far as up here in Hong Kong, we have the British tank rule 3, so that's a hit there, and we'll see if the infantry can take it out with a 2 or less. They do, so Hong Kong remains in Japanese hands there. Let's see there. Yeah, no one might be able to take that, so that's important because that'll keep Japan in their turn up above to 30 points. So that might get them 3 victory points in the next round. So it's looking difficult here for Japan not to achieve the 22 victory points as we move on. So there's one more attack the Australian forces can do. They can move the 2 aircraft that were in Western Australia, go 1, 2, 3 movements there, attack the transport and land in Malaya. So we'll roll the dice on this one here. It's a 3 or less. They get a hit there. Transports at a 1 or less to fire back. They do not. So the transport is sunk there, and then those two fighters there will land in Malaya. We end the British turn with units purchased there in India, and we purchase a bomber down here in New South Wales. So on to the U.S. turn here at the end of round number 5. They're gonna attack here with their naval units at the Marshall Islands on the Japanese subs there. And over here, the battleship Wisconsin with the Enterprise and Hornet, they're gonna participate in the Dutch New Guinea attack here to take out the infantry there. And also here we have bombers that were in the Northern Territory of Australia. So they, with a Moom 6, they have range to hit the infantry on the Celebes Islands. And we're going to put a U.S. Marine in there for an attack here. So if we take these 2 points away from Japan, they'll go down to 29 IPCs. So that'll put them to be only eligible to get 2 victory points if they cannot gain any territory in their turn. So the U.S. is successful in their attacks. They do take over Dutch Guinea without any casualties. They do take Celebes, but they do sacrifice 2 bombers to take over the islands. So that puts Japan down to 29 IPCs. Now as we come here at the end of round number 5, we see China. They place 3 more infantry in there, and they move their other infantry here closer to Hong Kong here now to overrun Hong Kong in the next turn here. So this puts us almost to the end of round number 5. I will just wrap it up by going over what the U.S. purchases here. So this concludes round number 5 of Axis and Allies Pacific. This is going to be the end of video part 4 here. This puts us in the timeline of about August to September 1944 here. We see the U.S. here. They're up to Celebes here. The Philippines will be the next agenda on the list here, or possibly Borneo. So we see here the IPC chart that Japan is at 29, the US is at 72, the British convoy is at 12. There was no disruptions in this game at all by the Japanese Navy. Australia is at 13 and India is at 16. So Japan only needs 4 more victory points for the Japan player to say they got a victory in this game for what they needed to do. But as far as the war goes, the war is pretty much in the favor of the Allies here as we continue on. The timeline's been pretty factual here going along here. I've been trying to keep it as best as I can. So this does it for part 4. We move on to video part 5 to cover hopefully the end of the war here.